You look at it,
First
right?
Nether trip was a pretty big success.
It's kind of trippy, right?
So on day 27,
cool.
I planted that so I could start getting into potion brew, and then started sailing around for another take at the mines, getting more scoria.
Yeah, read the title. Yeah,
my platform the way I want.
No, you can have my
3
strength.
stacks of this stuff. I do not want to have
I'm gonna be surviving 100 days in survival Minecraft. Okay, so I'm gonna start by getting me some wood, and don't mind the background.
Using the high ground to my advantage. But then got home, and on day 28, used all of these scoria bricks to outline the top section of the base. I made a diamond rapier to upgrade my weapon.
And no, there's no laws. I didn't see it, and you're gonna get achievements and everything.
I found some more sugarcane and a nautilus shell, but no one with the weapon that I wanted. I kept raiding a combination of sunken ships and underground caverns, another one with a huge abandoned mine shaft through the center of it, before returning home in the rain. Day 29, I actually spent all of this day on just a couple little inventory tweaks around the base, and the main thing I did was built a spawning platform about 30 or 40 blocks away from my main base to try to get a zombie villager to spawn so I can cure them and start working on an actual village.
No, I'm not gonna keep this up for 100 days. If I do survive the 100 days, I will do 200 days. It's gonna keep going on by 100 days every time I finish 100 days.
Phantoms and a skeleton that had spawned somewhere I didn't plan. Thankfully, this time I had a bow, so I was able to fight the phantoms off, but I still called it a night before fighting the creeper.
Yeah, you're right back.
30, I wanted to decorate the Nether Portal area a little bit and make those couple blocks of soul sand look a little more intentional instead of just sitting in the middle of the floor. I used a bunch of nether brick and some crying obsidian and a few shroom lights and the warped wood and some creeping vines, and I'm pretty happy with it. I also moved the enchanting table up to the top level to separate out the create stuff from the magic stuff. It kind of works. I then spent the whole night looking into more of the create mod to figure out what I needed to do, and fought off all the mobs that had spawned on the platform. Day 31, I needed more andesite and more zinc, so I went down to the mines underneath my base. I then also found a zombie spawner not too far away, digging from behind the andesite. So this is great. I can set up a grinder by my base now. I went down a little further and found, you guessed it, another abandoned mine shaft. This one intersecting with a sunken ravine and a dry one just underneath my base. I was able to find my first bit of copper and some loot in the spawner, but it was overall a good day. Alright, day 32. Here's my thought. I need to make bookcases for level 30 enchants, and one of the places I know I can find books is the library in the stronghold. It should be really easy to get to because it's a completely flat world. So I crafted up some Eyes of Ender and threw one. And threw one. And it didn't go. Uh-oh. Okay, so here's what happened. When I originally built the world and made the mod pack, I created a world that didn't have a biome in which a stronghold was actually allowed to spawn. I was panicking at this point because I was like 10 hours into the whole recording and I didn't want to lose everything, so I found a resource pack which would tweak the terrain generation and allow for strongholds and other structures to spawn. We're going to add a new rule. We're not allowed to go to any of the floating villages around the world. They're going to spawn, there's no way to turn them off and strongholds on. It was kind of an all or nothing solution, but this is the way that we can actually, beat the game. So I drug in the new mod and reloaded the world and went into my base and threw an ender pearl, and this time it actually worked. Whew. Sailing along that direction, it was immediately clear that the terrain had changed, with huge icebergs jutting out of the top of the ocean. Plus, this was cold water, so I was able to find kelp and a couple more drowned, one more with the trident who didn't give it up. And then a child in a full scuba suit, because then, of course that was going to try to come kill me. When swimming down, though, I ended up dropping into a cave that the water had forgotten about, with several creepers and everything surrounding me. I almost got exploded. I boxed myself up and immediately dug straight back to the surface. Which, as it continued into day 33, I was throwing pearls back and forth and digging down to try to find my way into the stronghold. Triangulating this was actually pretty difficult, and swimming through all of these caves, I'd expect to find a stronghold. I found diamonds, but no stronghold. I was at this for a while, just continuously digging up and down and experimenting. I found a ravine somewhere along day 34, which you would think would have exposed everything, but it didn't. And then into day 35, I was just keeping going back and forth. At this point, though, I had basically used up all of my Eyes of Ender and hadn't found any. I'm gonna have to craft a couple more to try to see if I can really nail it down. So I started heading back towards the base, planted all of the kelp so I'd have a ton more, and slept for the day. Day 36 was a little bit more inventory management, and then I upgraded my bow and properly named it. Sean's crossbow has nothing on this thing. I went back to the Nether to have my face sucked by bugs and collected a lot of gold, thinking I was going to trade, but accidentally murdering a piglin. I didn't kill the second one though. While I grabbed a little bit of basalt, the trading happened in the background. No pearls. Day 37, I kept mining out on all the gold and kept throwing it to my one favorite piggy boy. A ghast shot a fireball at me here, which immediately doesn't seem important, but it will in a little while, I promise. But I ultimately struck out, heading back towards the base and killing everything over on the monster platform in the hopes of getting a zombie villager. I've gotten a couple pearls from one of the last trades that I actually did, so I went back with just the two of them in hand and tried to find the stronghold again, using them to basically narrow it down to 2 blocks that it was really stopping over, and then digging around and finding a cave with a bunch of mobs, but nothing when it comes to the stronghold. At this point, I'm pretty sure it's bugged. So I headed back over to the mine shaft to just get a couple resources and upgrades and a lot more string, just because I want to be able to make wool for things, and marked this specific entrance. Heading back to base to do a little bit of fishing and think about what I'm going to do next. Day 39, I need to capture a couple blazes to upgrade my create mod stuff. I made the blaze burners and then headed off to the Nether to do a little bit more trading as well, and found 2 pieces of ancient debris in a ghast fireball pit hole, which is awesome. I never found another piece, but 2's nice. I threw a bunch of gold at my favorite piggy boy and then went over to the Nether Fortress to capture a few new blazes in their new homes / working chambers. I struck out on pearls on the way back, so my favorite piggy boy just happened to have disappeared, and that was basically it. Day 40 was all about the create mod. I made a mixer to be able to start making brass for some of the upgraded things that I'll need, but it wasn't spinning fast enough. So I worked my way through all of the integrated tutorials, which these things are amazing. Every mod should do this, before finally figuring it out and getting the thing spinning. That took most of the day though, so I set up a grindstone first thing on day 41, which immediately broke the whole system. Whoops. I fixed it though, lit the brazier, and was able to get some brass coming out of this thing, which was a huge accomplishment. I then went and replanted all of the farms because this is going to become automated really soon. On day the meaning of life, I was down in the caves underneath my main base, fighting around and just grabbing all of the resources that are around here. Coal was great, ender pearls from Enderman, with murder was also nice. And the skeletons were too busy fighting each other that they didn't really fight me. I eventually found the cave spider spawner and was able to torch it up, so the whole thing was actually a lot more safer. And then heard a very specific There was a zombie villager down here, which was huge. I set up an area to corner it into and capture it into a boat, and then killed the non-villager zombie, and it just stared at me. My friend, we're going to do amazing things together. Day 43, I set up a channel directly to the surface, immediately on top of my new villager friend, going back for a potion of weakness and a golden apple to cure them. While they were doing that, I went around and did some strip mining, trying to find a couple more diamonds, no dice right away, and got the advancement heading back to my new villager friend, and they're cured. I can start a village now. Day 44, it was time to establish that little water channel into a bubble column. When I got down there, there was a creeper trying to hitch a free ride up to the base, and I wasn't having any of that. So after taking care of that, I tried getting the boat into it, and I kind of pushed them into a wall, suffocating them a little bit, and then kind of suffocated them a little bit on the way up, but I was eventually able to get them into a boat and over towards my platform. I was finally not alone. Day 45, I converted my new villager friend into a farmer because that's the thing that I have the most of right now, and having a lot of food being auto-harvested and collected by a villager means that they're going to breed a little bit more often. Now, all I really need to do is find this one a friend. I went back down to the mines, hoping that another zombie villager would spawn, and found a couple diamonds, so I could get off of this iron pick I'm using temporarily. Fought off a bunch of mobs, went back to craft that diamond pickaxe, and used a power book that I had sitting in my chests to upgrade my better than a crossbow. And combined my diamond pickaxes, so I had a much better one now. Day 46, I went in the opposite direction from where the original stronghold had spawned, about 1,000 blocks out, and was just collecting on a few different ships and throwing pearls. It also had me by a village that I can't go to, remember the rules, and some ice spikes. So I'm starting to see a pattern of where these things spawn. I used the eyes and swum down through the caves, throwing a few in third person to make sure I don't miss them, finding myself attacked by several children at the same time. Yeah, that checks out. As things rolled over to day 47, I was continuing to collect resources because I'm finding a lot of good stuff down here, but I'm not finding a stronghold until digging in behind this bit of lapis and I found some stone bricks. I had made my way into my goal. I was immediately attacked by a creeper and a bunch of mobs because there's not a lot of place for these things to spawn other than in here, so it was super crowded. You know what one of them was? A zombie villager in full gold armor. So this one is definitely somebody I had to capture. Day 48, I continued exploring around the stronghold, fighting off a ton of mobs, and eventually making my way into the library, which is what got me started on this whole quest for the stronghold in the first place. I loaded up my inventory with books and then continued clearing out the area, finding the portal and breaking the silverfish spawner somewhere around the time where it rolled over to day 49. It had all of one eye in it, so in putting all of mine in, I'm 5 short. Good news is, though, I can just dig up and I know exactly where I need to go, and I need to head back to my base anyway. I need supplies to convert my zombie villager friend back into a normal villager. Day 50, we're at the halfway point of the overall project. I crafted up some weakness potions and I upgraded my pickaxe one more time with unbreaking, so that way I'd be able to keep it for longer. Made a golden apple. Thankfully, my villager friend sells apples. And with everything on board, sailed back towards the stronghold, which takes about
I'm back.
half the day at this point. I found a few seals floating around on the ice. The sounds were really cool, but they were sleeping, so I didn't want to bother them. Fought off a ton of mobs while I was underground, and cured my zombie villager friend, starting a new bubble column to get it towards the surface. I realized, though, I didn't have any soul sand on me. I forgot that, so I started getting some obsidian to make a nether portal to go get that. Day 51, my villager friend is cured, and they're a nitwit. Oh, great. I made the nether portals, stored off the things that I didn't need immediately, and came out on a pretty different place. I was attacked by one of those angry cousins of the Striders. I love Striders. This thing, not a big fan of it. But thankfully, I was in a soul sand valley, so I grabbed all I could. I also mined up trying to see if I could get somewhere close towards the normal nether portal. I was actually quite low in the nether and just didn't find my way up to the surface, so I went back through the portal I got here and then started building my way back up. I used kelp to flesh out and fill out all of the water so everything was a bubble column, and then tried to sail in. It didn't work the way I was expecting, but we did make it back to the surface, and I took half a day sailing my friend back towards the base, with them camping out in the back of my boat, pushing them up through the farm, and introducing my 2 new best friends to each other. They don't seem to be talking, though, and sleep as far apart as physically possible. I have some work to do to play matchmaker here. Day 53, though, my villagers were talking to each other, and after some potatoes were thrown around, a baby popped out. My village is starting to grow. I don't need the monster spawning platform anymore, so I started tearing that down and making a fancier spot for my villagers to live on directly adjacent to the farm. I'm hoping that I could leave them access to this thing so they could constantly be getting food. I worked on that for pretty much the whole day into day 54 when I noticed that everybody was trying to run away and swim off of my platform. I can't believe they're doing this to me. I cured them out of zombiness and they're both just trying to leave me and abandon me. So I popped them back up into the farm and started building some walls around everything. Once again, finding them just running off in a random direction, floating their way towards oblivion. I captured all of them in boats and made the walls just a little bit higher, having to spend all of the day constantly herding cats. A creeper at one point just popped onto the platform. Somewhere is obviously not lit up, so I was able to get it into the water so it wouldn't do any damage and bow down. I started day 55.
I'm on it.
By recollecting all of my villagers and convincing them all to return to the platform so they didn't just constantly swim off in one direction. And that took about half the day. I eventually fenced in the entire farm area, hoping that that would prevent any further issues. I literally just spent all of this day trying to convince my villagers to not drown themselves. I don't know what's wrong with their AI in this world, but they don't like it here. Day 56. I really want to go get a trident, and I need a couple other things. I started sailing around finding villages that I couldn't visit, but eventually finding an island that actually had some grass and some seeds available on it. grow wheat now. I was also fighting off any drowned I could find, so that way I could eventually get a trident. And I came across a floating jungle temple. Now, this is dangerous. It's not just a village, so I ventured inside, finding a couple diamonds, which was nice. Just a little bit of loot.
Whatever you're looking for, Booking.com has it all. Book a vacation rental now and get up to 20% back in travel credits by using promo code RENTAL20. Welcome back to travel. Booking.com.
But I continued sailing through the new chunks, finding a little bit more grass and a little bit more seeds to be able to continue setting that up, and more drowned. This time, another one with a trident, who I used to kill most of their friends. I was able to get nautilus shells, but again, no battle fork. But as the sun set on day 57, I found the largest island I've found yet, with sugarcane, sand, seeds, and a tree! I can actually get a sapling! I can actually grow trees now! Day 58, it was back to the base, and continuing to convince my villagers to not be eaten by sharks, as I started demolishing all of these additional platforms. I'm assuming somewhere I have left a gap where they're able to walk their way through, so these things just won't work. That led into day 59, which it took 2 days to demolish all of this stuff, and I just built them a secondary circle that was completely fenced in on day 60. And I'm talking no way to access and get off of this thing at all. I don't want these people swimming to their death anymore. It did turn into...
I'm back. I'm so sorry about that. I had to go do some stuff. Alright, we're gonna count this as not counting.
61. I finished the entire platform, fencing it all in, so there's no way to get out of here.
Oh no,
I was
my...
gonna build a house, but you know what? The open air
Oh
accommodation
no,
sounds
that's
nice.
not good. My
I watched
sugar
a
cane.
fish drown itself inside of a composter. I have no idea how it made it in there. And then created another bubble
You know what, we're
compost
just gonna
to
make a
get
new
all of
world.
my
That's
villager
why
friends
not.
up into their forever home, accidentally suffocating a few in the floor.
Here, I'm gonna end this room and make a new one.
Died. Day 62.